And
Annie, greetings. My name's Morningstar Bear.
For decades, University of Saskatchewan professor Carrie Bourassa had claimed to be of Indigenous ancestry.
I'm Bear Clan. I'm Anishinaabe Métis from Treaty 4 territory.
But 1 year ago, a CBC News investigation found she was of entirely European ancestry. Bourassa was placed on leave and under investigation, but then resigned. So the investigator focused on the broader problem, Indigenous identity fraud.
I think the university underestimated the utter greed of white people who will do anything to get the jobs and the prestige and the money and the positions.
She says for decades, universities have been setting aside jobs and scholarships for Indigenous people, but no proof was required in order to qualify.
It's poison. It seeps out everywhere, and then everybody is tainted by it and everybody's damaged.
Just last month, CBC News published an investigation into Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond, a high-profile academic and former judge who for decades had claimed to be Cree.
What status does that give you?
I'm a Treaty Indian.
The CBC News investigation found no evidence in support of that claim. Retired Senator Lillian Dick and a group of other Indigenous women are calling on 11 universities to revoke honorary degrees they granted to Turpel-Lafond.
Someone does something that's unethical or lacks integrity, there should be consequences.
Most of those universities have told CBC News they take these allegations seriously and are looking into them. As for Turpel-Lafond, in a statement released shortly after our investigation, she said she continues to believe her father was Cree. She said he was adopted by her non-Indigenous grandparents from a Cree family, but she hasn't provided evidence for this claim. Jeff Leo, CBC News, Regina.
As reported in The Guardian, a Canadian woman who fraudulently claimed her daughters were Inuit has been sentenced to 3 years in jail in what is believed to be the first ever custodial sentence for a Pretendian. Karima Manji, whose daughters accessed more than 150,000 Canadian dollars in benefits intended for Inuit, was sentenced on Thursday after pleading guilty to fraud in February. Nunavut Justice Mia Menachio said the case must serve as a signal to any future Indigenous pretender that the false appropriation of Indigenous identity in a criminal context will draw a significant penalty. Meanwhile, in Nova Scotia, non-binary identified man Matthew John Knights was selected as the 5th recipient of the Maria Anna Mozart Award for Canadian women and non-binary composers. The Maria Anna Mozart Award was created by a professor of sociology and women's studies in Halifax, who was inspired by Mozart's older sister, Maria Anna, who had toured with her brother as a child and was noted to be just as talented. However, her musical legacy was halted when she followed the traditional path for women, married, took care of a family, and managed a household. Although we know she composed from correspondence among the family members, none of her music survived. The creator of the award noted the lack of recognition for female composers and sought to rectify that through the competition, only for it to further prove the need for it. Why does a man, regardless of how he identifies, need to receive an award to overcome the challenges that being female causes in the musical field? As long as he doesn't open his mouth, no one would guess that he had gender identity, and if the award was based on merit, then surely he could have succeeded in an open competition. Instead, a woman was robbed of the chance to make use of a resource that could further her career. This is far from the only case like this.
Well, dudes that have been changed into chicks are crushing it right now. Male Spanish soldiers are self-identifying as women to get better army digs. Army Corporal Roberto, who registered as a female in the past 12 months, reportedly he gets a better salary now. He has nicer accommodations. And then also, he was told that his pension's gone up because women get more to compensate for inequality. Also gets a 15% more annual salary for being a mother. You know what the best part is? Because out of respect for, he said he didn't want to be in the female houses and showering with them and stuff. So they just gave him his own house. Corporal's been allowed to maintain his beard because facial hair is permitted for women, whereas guys have to shave their beard.
What do you mean facial hair is permitted for
There's
women?
nothing in the code of conduct about women having facial hair.
This is just a smart guy. He's a smart lady, sorry.
In Spain, soldiers are changing their gender to receive benefits such as higher pay and better sleeping quarters due to a self-identification law aimed at helping transgender people. 41 men in Spain's North Africa autonomous city, Ceuta, have made the drastic decision to change their gender on official documents from male to female since the so-called Lady Trans, or trans law, was implemented in March 2023. Of the men in Ceuta who've changed their identity, only 4 have also legally changed their name. A majority of the now female soldiers have kept every other aspect of life, including male genitalia, sexuality, and even facial hair. We've seen this in sports.
5 transgender players dominated a women's college volleyball game in Canada.
Coach, why are you playing male players? I'm not. Well, they are. They're male. They're biological males. Why are you doing that? What happened to chivalry? It's not dead in my room, huh?
Male-born athletes were on both teams, 3 on Seneca and 2 on Centennial. Each of them reportedly stayed on the court for the entire game, while the biological females were getting on and off the bench. Seneca College, the team with more trans players, ended up winning the best of 5 series.
We've seen this in beauty pageants.
Bailey Ann, the first transgender woman to be crowned Miss Maryland.
This is going to mean a lot for all the LGBT kids out there. I hope that my win will be a delicious invitation for them to be themselves.
Kennedy got an opportunity to take part in the pageant after the Miss Universe organization lifted the age limit of 28 and allowed married women to participate. Bailey Ann became the first Asian American, the first married contestant, and the first military spouse to win the title, and the first to do so at the age of 31. Bailey Ann will represent Maryland in the upcoming Miss USA competition.
We've seen this in rape and domestic violence shelters.
Since Rowling has Rowlinged again by opening a women's-only sexual violence support service specifically against trans people in Edinburgh, and named it after the Scottish goddess of winter, I thought I would take a second to introduce you guys to the Slavic goddess of winter. She's called Mara, or Martsana, or Marena. She's the goddess of winter and the goddess of death. She's also the goddess of a few other things thrown in, like rivers. She's often depicted as an old hag or a giantess, with one eye, much like the Scottish goddess of winter. And she sometimes drowns people in rivers, being, the goddess of death and all. There's a notation in Old Russian that she transforms herself into a man, and is called Marin, and drowns people in the river. So yeah, mythology is not on the side of bigotry. Mythology tells many stories.
Men identify as women for their own benefit. This is pretendarianism at its finest, and yet you don't see Leah Thomas being arrested. You won't see Dylan Mulvaney facing jail time for being awarded Woman of the Year. The argument goes that race is different from gender. However, that argument falls flat when you realize that race, while a social construct, deeply impacts how one is treated, what opportunities they receive, and their place in society. Sex is real and immutable, and gender is inseparable from one's sex, just as race is inseparable from one's heritage and skin color.
Being black is not just, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but being black is not just the color of your skin. It's like, and I know you've been to Africa and everything like that, but it's a cultural thing. Me and Vince, like we, African Americans, we are descendants of slaves, and our ancestors endured a lot, went through a lot of things, fought for their place in society when they were considered like animals at one point. And that's our heritage that allots us the privilege of calling ourselves black and being proud in the skin that we wear because we were born with it, and the people before us laid the foundation for us to be that way. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to add to that, one thing too is in a sense, like, how could you feel like you identify with that if, just by changing the color of your skin?
While gender, as in the roles and stereotypes placed on a person because of their sex, may change based on location and time period, it is still an observable phenomenon and one that cannot be chosen or opted into. So if pretending to be another race for personal benefit is a crime, then why isn't pretending to be another sex one too? Why is the harm of taking resources meant for a marginalized group acknowledged when it comes to race, but not sex? As per usual, the answer is because some men benefit. This, dear viewers, is where we part. This case is very frustrating and very annoying, and all that I can really say is that I hope that we see the tides change sooner or later so that we can stop seeing cases like this continually pop up, where there is an obvious hypocrisy in how race and gender are treated. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!